Osho, one of the things I enjoy most in this life is hearing you describe the state of enlightenment. For those of us who love to listen, can you once again say something about the unsayable?
It is true that there is nothing more beautiful, more blissful than enlightenment. Even the talk of it even the far away echo even the shadow of it the moon reflected in the water is not the real moon. But still it has tremendous beauty. And if the waters of your mind are silent, then the moon reflected in those waters is exactly the same. It is not your experience, but it is someone's experience you love. It is someone's experience you trust. And just because you love and you trust, you start sharing the experience in a subtle way. It is certainly difficult to say anything about it. Although my whole life I have been saying things about it, and only about it. Even if though I am talking about other things, I am only talking to lead you towards an understanding of enlightenment. It is your state of silence. It is your state of universalhood. It is you without the ego and its problems. It is you without any questions and without any answer either. Simply silent. And there is no joy which can transcend this silence. It is pure light. It is pure delight. I can understand your question. Just to hear about it again and again is a necessary need, so you don't forget why you are here.
So my challenge to you is, what if you didn't have to do anything about anything at all? Nothing at all to do, nothing at all to do about anything. Yes, make a cup of tea because that doesn't give you any trouble. Whatever it is you have to do, answer the phone, make this appointment, whatever. But it's not accompanied by this idea that there is something that I need to do to be stable in the awareness, because I tell you that is a trap. Forget about it. If you touch this idea, you believe it instantly into existence. And then you have to believe another idea to remove it. So why not drop both ideas in the first place and stay where you are? You're simply here within which all that arises for you, including the sense of spirituality, forget about spirituality then. Forget about enlightenment and forget about you also. And what remains here? That which cannot be gotten rid of remains. It's just that, simpler than simple. Sometimes we overuse the intellectual faculties, which are only meant to take you up to this seeing, and thereby they say goodbye. We have served you enough, they will go. You're simply here. All this knowledge that we acquire, called spiritual knowledge, is only a mirror for the timeless to see itself. And for what reason? For no other reason than it's fascinated with its own recognition for some reason. I don't see that the idea that something is difficult, which is a persistent notion in the psyche of the human expression of consciousness, that we just have to do something to kind of, sometimes we're speaking like also a sense that we must get something accurately. So I said, no, there's no accuracy in the self. Or everything is the self. If you give up all your notions, all your effort to try and get somewhere, just drop it right here now, because you have the power to do it. Just drop it. Yes. Just like you're sitting in a restaurant full of people, clinking glasses and utensils and stuff, and talking, and there's music, and yet you can have a sweet conversation with your friend sitting across the table, because you don't let it in. Yeah. In the same way, you don't let these thoughts in, that there is something that I need to do to stay more present. And the minute you are without this thought, the recognition is here. You know what? Oftentimes, this moment of seeing is attended by great laughter. There's nobody laughing, it's just... It seems too simple to be true. Because how many books, how many libraries, how many CDs, how many teachers, how many stories can it all be pointing to this simplicity? My God, what a joke, what a strange thing. That I simply am. Some full acceptance of this ever-present truth happens, as it were. We can give it the title of grace or sort of benediction or whatever it is, but it simply happens. And this movement, that there is something that needs to be corrected, yes, at times I can say this, because another time I might tell you, you know what, you need to stop doing that and do this. And there has to be that flexibility, that openness, which is present in the beingness, to actually hear that and see the sense in that in the moment, and still see that although you have to do something to see that, actually you have to do nothing to be that. So this is a kind of paradox that seems to happen And we are mostly molested by these thoughts that something gets in the way. Yes. So there's a time when I'll tell you, yes, in the moment this thing seems to be in the way. And I'll also ask you, in the way of what? Yes. And what is witnessing the sense of this obstruction being in the way of what? We have said that awareness cannot be on the other side of working through any process or practice. It has to be that in which even the very idea, the striving, the first thought happens already in the awareness. So any journey from that thought onward can only happen in awareness, but cannot be taking you to awareness as an objective goal. It is only the discovery of the subject to itself. And sometimes when you read it, of course, in trying to convey that which really cannot be conveyed with words, it cannot be touched or carried in the word. At best, you may say, out of the irrefutable authority of the seeing, those words are imbibed with a sort of presence. They have a power in them. They have more light or something in them when they come from that seeing, at best. Yes. That when you yourself are the seeing and the experiencing, and yet beyond at the same time, you cannot explain this, and as I said before, thankfully you don't have to write a thesis about it. It's just your own inner seeing. Something very private, let's use the word for that for the moment. But it cuts away, strips back all these layers of should-dos and should-do-nots and leave the truth in its nakedness as it is, here, present, now. What can be simpler than that? Prior even to simplicity, you are that. Our minds are really enjoying this complete rest. When the mind is in complete rest, meaning that it's not carrying any intention, any notion that there's something to be attained in order to be something, it spontaneously is one with self. It is self is self. Yes. Drop the notion that something stops you from being this. That's only a notion arising in this. What is this? And who is there outside of this to know it? In this that we are, it does not even say, I am this. This is why I said, missing the obvious. Because we engage with some construction about what this must be. And then looking at your mind and your conditioning, you feel unworthy. I'm not worthy of that, actually. You identify with that, which gives a sense that you are less than. Because as long as there's a search, there is a sense something is missing. Therefore, this is why they're searching.
What is enlightenment? Again, this is one of those words that have come from India. To be enlightened. To be enlightened about what? And the so-called enlightened people, and they are not, because the moment they say, I am enlightened, they are not. It's their vanity. It's like a man saying, I'm really humble. When a man says that, you know what it is. Humility is not the opposite of vanity. When the vanity ends, the other is. Those people who have said we are enlightened say you must go through step by step. Practice this, do that, don't do this. Become my pupil, I'll tell you what to do, I'll give you an Indian name or a Christian new name, and so on, so on, so on. And you, kind of irrational human being, accept this nonsense. So we are saying, ask, is that supreme enlightenment? We understand what meaning of that word. A mind that has no conflict, no sense of striving, going, moving, achieving. So we must understand this question of time, which is the constant becoming or not becoming, which is the same, right? The becoming and the not becoming. And when that becoming is rooted in the mind, that becoming conditions all your thinking, all your activity, then it is a matter of using time as a means of becoming, achieving. But is there such thing as becoming? You understand? I am violent. I will be non-violent. That is becoming an idea. Right? I am violent, and the non-violence, I project the idea of not being violent. Because, so I create duality, violent and non-violent. And so there is conflict. Then I say I must control myself, I must suppress, I must analyze, I must go to psychologists, I must psychotherapists, and so on, so on, so on. Without creating the opposite, the non-violence, the fact is violence, not non-violence. Right? The fact. The non-violence is non-fact. If you get that once, the truth of that is, I am violent, the concept of non-violence brings about this conflict between the opposites. The non-fact has no value, only the fact, which is unviolent. Now, to observe the whole movement of violence, anger, jealousy, hate, competition, imitation, conformity, and so on and so on. To observe it without any direction, without any motive. Right? Then, if you do that, Then there is the end of violence, which is an immediate perception and action. I wonder if you understand this. Bene? Ha capito? So, one can see that illumination, this sense of ultimate reality and so on, is not of time. This goes against the whole psychological religious world. The Christians with their souls, with their saviors, with their ultimate, etc., etc. We say, perception is action, not perception, great interval, and then action. In that interval, you create the idea. Right? Are you following all this? So we are pointing out something, which is, can the mind, the brain, the whole human nervous structure, as well as psychological structure, be free of this burden of million years of time? So that you see something clearly and action is invariably immediate. That action will be rational, not irrational. That action can be explained logically, sanely. So we are saying that ultimate thing which is truth is not to be achieved through time. It can never be achieved. It is there or it is not there.
What is enlightenment? If whatever I say you tend to misunderstand, whatever I say you're bound to misunderstand, but let me see how to create minimum amount of misunderstanding. This is the reason why most enlightened beings never spoke, because the moment you speak, you're bound to be misunderstood. That's the reason I don't speak about any other dimension of life. I'm only talking about methods. When you get there, you will know. Now, you want to see New York City. If I go on talking about New York City, you still don't know. So I'm just trying to build a car for you. You get in and go there. When you go there, you will know what it is. Till then, whatever I speak, you're bound to perceive it in all kinds of ways. Everything that you understand, you always understand it only from what you already know. That's the basis of your understanding. That understanding is of no consequence when we're talking about a completely different dimension of life. Now, what enlightenment means for you would be, suppose you're here right now, you're in the body, but you don't belong to the body. You have a mind, but you don't belong to the mind. You have a family, you don't belong to the family. You're in the world, but you don't belong to the family, to the world. But at the same time, everything is a part of you. You're not in conflict with anything. Everything is a part of you, but you yourself don't belong to anything. How would it be? You cannot imagine, isn't it? So in terms of your experience, how would it be? Suppose You spent a lifetime without ever knowing what's fear, what's anger, what's jealousy, what's hatred, what's anxiety. You're blissful all the time, you're intoxicated all the time, at the same time you're fully alert. How would it be? Did you ever get drunk? No. Okay. All the time you got drunk, but all the time you're fully wide awake and alert. Even if you fall asleep, you're wide awake. But even if you're awake, you're still in deep sleep. Am I making some sense to you? No. So, enlightenment means you have broken the barriers of the physical. The limitations the physical has imposed upon you, you've broken that. Now, don't seek enlightenment right now, because for most people, over 90% of the people who reach that stage, the moment of enlightenment and moment of leaving the body are same. Once your energies reach such a peak, you can't hold on to the body, you'll drop the body anyway. So moment of enlightenment and moment of leaving the body are same for most people. Only somebody who knows the tricks of the body, who understands the mechanics of the body can hold on to it. Otherwise they have to employ something else to hold on to it. Because most people who attain have not gone into that kind of sadhana. They're only learning to drive the car, they're not learning how to build the car. So they cannot retain the body. They will have to play various dramas to hold on to the system. For example, you heard of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Ramakrishna is an uneducated man. That's the advantage he had. No influence of education on him. He's like a village bumpkin, but a crystallized consciousness. So he's very simple. He's very significant for United States because the first yogi who came to United States in 1895, he came to Chicago, okay. 93? 1893, Swami Vivekananda landed up in Chicago. See, he came here looking for you. And the other yogi who really made some impact in the country was Paramahamsa Yogananda. He also is a disciple of Ramakrishna's disciple. So both of them have the same lineage of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and both of them came to United States. So Ramakrishna was godlike. People saw him godlike, they worshipped him as God. Very simple man, like a villager he is. He has no education, no sophistication, simple. But he is godlike, people could not miss his divinity. But he was mad about food, crazy about food, He is talking to a group of people, his disciples. Halfway he says, "Please wait, I will come." He will run into the kitchen and ask his wife, "What's cooking today?" Sharada, his wife, was ashamed of this. How can you be like this? People see you godlike and you're mad about food. Even I am not bothered about food, why are you bothered about food? Ramakrishna would say, "That's okay, but what's cooking?" One day she really got angry with him and she said, "I am ashamed. I'm just ashamed of you the way you are. People are worshipping you like God and you are mad about food." That day he told her, "One day when you bring the thali means in India, in that part of the country, there's a large plate. In India people eat in such big plates. A large plate where food is pre-arranged and brought. Ramakrishna always sat on a swing. That is also a unique thing for India probably. We have swings which are like eight feet long, you can sleep on it and he always ate on this swing. One day when you bring the food, thali, to me, If I look away, if I don't show any interest in the food, you must know there are only 3 more days left. This happened 7 years after this incident. One day she brought the thali and he looked away. Then she immediately knew. She broke down and cried. He said, no point crying, time is up. He just used a conscious desire for the food as a way to hold on to his body. He doesn't know any other systems of yoga to hold on. So simple method, he created a conscious desire for the food all the time. Everything else has been lost. Because without desire you cannot exist in the body. Everything else has been gone. Now there is a conscious desire every day, consciously he's thinking about food all the time, just to keep himself in the system. This kind of conscious desire, you can drop it any time. When you feel it's done, you can just drop it. So, moment of enlightenment and moment of leaving will be same. So that's why we work people up to a certain point and peg them down there on the last step, so that they serve their natural course of life in a very beautiful way. And when the time comes, we can release them from that. It'll be nice to send them right now, but it'll be nice to have evolved people on the planet.